William Barr was Donald Trump's attorney general. And William Barr, I do not consider a friend of the progressive movement. William Barr is not someone I would even remotely consider for attorney general. But William Barr does have some legal expertise. There is no question about that. And William Barr went on Fox News Sunday and said that if half of the new federal indictment against Trump is true, Trump is toast. This is super interesting stuff. It wildly triggered Donald Trump. Let's listen to what Barr had to say. And he's making a lot of sense here.
What about this chief argument that comes up for the president's allies and his legal team that this should have been handled under the Presidential Records Act, not this Espionage Act charge and other federal statutes that were used here?
Well, it started out under the Presidential Records Act and the archives trying to retrieve documents that Trump had no right to have. But it quickly became clear that what the government was really worried about were these classified and very sensitive documents. I was shocked by the degree of sensitivity of these documents and how many there were, frankly. Yeah. And so the government's agenda was to get those, protect those documents and get them out. And I think it was perfectly appropriate to do that. It was the right thing to do. And I think the counts under the Espionage Act that he willfully retained those documents are solid counts. Now, I do think we have to wait and see what the defense says and what proves to be true. But I do think that even half what Andy McCarthy said, which is if even half of it is true, then he's toast. I mean, it's a very detailed indictment, and it's very, very damning.
Okay, that is an extraordinary statement, and it also sort of deals with one of the claims that so-called legal experts like Mark Levin are making, which is that this stuff isn't even really related to the criminal world of law, that this is all just Presidential Records Act subject to that. And William Barr says, sure, initially it was subject to that, but based on the evidence in the indictment, which includes alleged obstruction and it includes all of these other things that Trump is accused of doing, it becomes criminal. And that's it. It's short. You can say until you're blue in the face, this is presidential record stuff. It went criminal when Trump covered it up, tried to keep the documents, potentially tried to destroy documents, et cetera, et cetera. And that is absolutely very, very serious stuff. Then we go to Fox News' favorite legal commentator, Jonathan Turley. Jonathan Turley has been defending Trump reflexively for years now on so many different issues. Even Jonathan Turley says this is a very damning indictment. Listen to this.
The president goes on to say, well, what happens if we just don't respond at all to the subpoena, I guess, or don't play ball with them? The president goes on to say, wouldn't it be better if we just told them we don't have anything here? Well, look, isn't it better if there are no documents? They've got these conversations that were memorialized by the president's attorneys. There's also this recording of him where he talks about this plan that's believed an attack plan against Iran. I mean, they've got a lot of information in this, Jonathan.
No, it is an extremely damning indictment. There are indictments that are sometimes called narrative or speaking indictments. These are indictments that are really meant to make a point as to the depth of the evidence. There are some indictments that are just bare bones. This is not. The special counsel knew that there would be a lot of people who were going to allege that the Department of Justice was acting in a biased or politically motivated way. This is clearly an indictment that was drafted to answer those questions. It's overwhelming in details. And, the Trump team should not fool itself. These are hits below the waterline. These are witnesses who apparently testified under oath, gave statements to federal investigators, both of which can be criminally charged if they're false. Those witnesses are directly quoting the president in encouraging others not to look for documents or allegedly to conceal them. It's damaging. And the key here to keep in mind is that every case I've ever been involved with, the indictment was a heart stopper. These are written by lawyers who are trying to convict the client. Every indictment I've ever dealt with has fallen apart to some degree once we look more carefully at what the evidence may be. But this is not an indictment that you can dismiss.
All right. So there is Jonathan Turley, even with his hemming and hawing, saying this is very serious stuff. Back to William Barr. William Barr putting the blame for all of this squarely on Trump. And that's where it should be.
So, and we can't forget here that this entire thing came about because of reckless conduct of the president. If he had just turned over the documents, which I think every other person in the country would have done.
True.
They're the government's documents. They're official records. They're not his personal records. Battle plans for an attack on another country or Defense Department documents about our capabilities are in no universe Donald J. Trump's personal documents.
And then lastly from William Barr, Trump's claims that other presidents did the same thing. Barr debunks it. Good for him. To his credit, he is undoing every single one of these Trump arguments.
The sock drawer case with President Clinton,
yes.
they'll point to these and say, listen,
so there are two big lies, I think, that are out there right now. One is, oh, these other presidents took all these documents. Those were situations where they arranged with the archives to set up special space under the management, control, and security provided by the archivist to temporarily put documents until the libraries were ready. Right. These were not people just putting them in their basement, okay? And the second thing that the president, this idea that the president has complete authority to declare any document personal is obvious. It's facially ridiculous. That opinion had to do with the distinction between official records, which are records prepared by government agencies for the purpose of government action, and personal documents as opposed to official documents, which are things prepared by the president, such as a diary or notes, which are not used in the government's deliberations. And yes, as to the second class, stuff that the president himself generates, the president has some discretion. But these are official documents. It's inarguable.
Yep. Listen, William Barr, you don't have to like him to recognize that he is on much stronger legal footing here than a random Fox News commentator indignantly saying there's nothing here. William Barr is right, and that's why it so triggered Donald Trump when he said this. Let's talk about that briefly next. People often ask me about my daily routine. You know, I'm interviewed about the David Pakman show. How do you do it? How do you do this? And like daily routine just often comes up, and how do you stay healthy? And of course, I talk about exercise and I talk about eating the right diet. But one of the things that can happen if you are not eating the right diet, or you're traveling, or life gets in the way, is you end up with some kind of vitamin deficiency. A daily scoop of AG1 from our sponsor, Athletic Greens, makes this super easy to take off of your list of things to worry about. One scoop of AG1, you get the entire day's worth of 75 high-quality vitamins and minerals from whole food-sourced ingredients. AG1 is cheaper than dealing with a bunch of different supplements. It's infinitely more convenient. You just take a scoop before you have your coffee, for example, as I do in the morning, and you're covered for the entire day. Many of my friends love AG1. Anyone I mention it to seems to get hooked. When I go on vacation, I bring the AG1 travel packs with me, especially because I'm not always eating the same diet when I'm traveling that I do at home. Staying properly nourished, so important to feeling your best. AG1 just makes it really easy and very convenient. Go to athleticgreens.com/Pakman to get a free year's supply of vitamin D. I've talked about vitamin D so many times, plus 5 free AG1 travel packs. The link is down below.